You are watching Mentor English, Professor M.A. Raza. We have lot of other electronic channels for the betterment of society. For example, Palia TV1, Mentor English, Mentor Urdu, Mentor Turkish, Mentor uh, Arabic, and Jamia Darulum Sheikhul Islam. So must subscribe and hit the bell icon to all. Thanks, my online family. I love you all. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Mentor English, and hope you will be fine and in the high state of belief and health. Today, the topic is the origin and development of the English novel. So, let's get started. We have discussed the origin of the novel in general in the first two lectures. Here, in this section, the focus is on introducing the English novel with a brief background. In her book titled as The True Story of the Novel, Margaret Ann Duday, 1996, has pointed to the narrative desires of people at the background of the novel, and from where the novel came into a form of literary genre based on her title. The novel does have a story, and that is a true story. The dear students, underline this particular line, that the novel does have a story and that is a true story. The discovery of the modern novel is indeed a fascinating story of 18th century as a typical contribution of England to the literature of the world. But we need to dig up but we need to dig deep into order to know the origin of the novel, as does Margaret Duday. She shows the early forms of the novel while in shape of poetic verses narrating the heroic deeds of encounters and battles existed when Greek and Roman classical writers created the greatest of their epic. For example, the epic of Gilgamesh, the epic of Gilgamesh, the Iliad by Homer, and the Odyssey were produced by Greek epic writers. So, Similarly, long before it formed a literary genre in the 18th century with Richardson's Pamela. Written in 1740, the novel existed in various initial forms. It plunged deep through the centuries. 14th and 15th were the centuries of the formative days of the novel. After epic chivalric and medieval romances were popular, these romances were first written in verse and subsequently in prose. In other words, in those early times, the novel was in the shape of romantic tales and heroic stories based upon adventures, romantic and chivalric episodes. A certain amount of prose fiction did exist in the 15th and 16th century as well. In the beginning, Sir Thomas Malory, 1395 to 1471, Morte d'Arthur was the most complete single version of the tales related to King Arthur and his court, which was considered as the first English romance. With this book, the English novel took a distinctive forward step, and romance became popular, which remained so until the end of 16th or so. On the other hand, Geoffrey Chaucer, 1340 to 1400s, the Canterbury Tales have all the characteristics of modern day fiction. The Canterbury Tales include two tales written in prose, and the Chaucer is supposed to have produced the first English novel. His tales written in prose gave new turn to fiction, which was indeed a deep plunge, which was indeed a deep plunge, taken. Another great work of value before the Elizabethan fiction was Thomas More's Utopia. Accordingly, in early days, Chaucer and Moore both gave together a new turn to prose fiction. They not only changed the course of chivalric and medieval romances to religious and social portraiture of life, but also paved the way for the novel to take shape as a new genre in the next 200 years. Subsequently, during the 16th century, a real process of evolution commenced in the history of novel. Though the Elizabethan writer did not succeed themselves in evolving the novel, their efforts definitely made the making of novel as a new literary genre possible. In Elizabethan age, the idea of the novel grew more and more until it became definite. Most of the fiction of this age were either romantic or didactic in nature. For example, Sidney's Arcadia is a heroic romance of chivalry. Green's Pandosto, the Lodge the Lodge Rosalinde are considered purely, because that's the classical era words. So according to my opinion, the best pronunciation is Rosalind or Rosalind, you can say. But I will definitely I will sum up the voice of E here. I will decrease the voice of E here, or you can say I will say a full stop before the E, are considered purely romantic fiction. Similarly, a didactic stain also ran through the written of writings of Francis Bacon, John Lilly, Thomas More. A realistic note was struck by Nash, Delany, and Dekker. Nash's work is considered among the early source of the very realistic modern day fiction work. If we consider the Renaissance prose fiction as the plausible attendants of the novel, we have some other good examples as well. Thomas Nash, The Unfortunate Traveller, written in 1594, and Jack of Newbury by Thomas Delany, written in 1597, are among other things pseudo biographies and just books with a touch of cautionary or exemplary fable stories. These also have the qualities of confession, chivalric fantasies, and travellages on top of that. These are the example of the steps of the development of the novel, which kept on developing until 18th century, when it was recognized as something specific. In his book from fiction to the novel, writer Geoffrey Day goes so far as to suggest that what we unhesitatingly think of as 18th century novels were not perceived as such by the readers, or indeed by the major writers of the period, and that so far from being ready to accept the various works as novels, they do not appear to have arrived at a consensus. There is a problem with my slide. Consensus that works such as Robinson Crusoe, Pamela, Joseph Andrew, Clarissa, Tom Jones, and Peregrine Pickle, and Tristram Shandy were even all of the same species or specimen. So even the idea of the novel was not the same in those days. but it kept on emerging and developing until it got its recognition and acceptance as the novel. Moreover, a number of experts have pointed out that it is only when you get towards the very end of the 18th century and at the beginning of the 19th, and also thanks to writer like Sir Walter Scott, and or Walter Scott, both you can say, but Walter Scott is more better, and Jane Austen, that the novel really took its shapes as a single form or literary genre. This is why these critics maintain the stories we tell about the rise of the rise of the novel need to be explained in detail. My next lecture tells us and will tells us the story of the rise of the novel in the 17th century. So before going further, today the time of my this lecture have been compelled, and we are going to the overthrow of the time length of our regular lectures. So I will create the next topic in my next lecture. So let me go now. Before going, I would like to request you that if you want to search novel in Urdu, then must subscribe our channel Mentor Urdu, Murshid Urdu, Professor M. Raza. And if you are searching for as a teacher of Islamiyat or Diniyat, then our channel Jamia Darul Uloom Sheikhul Islam must be subscribed. And if you are searching for English particularly, so you are on the right channel, so must subscribe and hit the bell icon, Mentor English, Professor M. Raza. So let me go now and say with me, do something more for humanity, do something more for knowledge and practices. Have a good day.